How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Black Metal Rebellion. Today I'm here to do a review on the new Wormlight CD coming out called Wrath of the Wilds. Now, if you don't know who Wormlight is, they are a kind of melodic black and death metal band from Umeå, Sweden. The members of this band are now Tiamat Invictus on vocals and guitar, Lator Mortis on guitar, Arctos on bass, and King on drums. Now this new album comes to you from Black Lion Records on nice glossy ass digipack here. Seems like a pretty decent quality. I don't think this one's just going to deteriorate sitting on your shelf. This is the inside here and what you get to look forward to. It's got quite a few decent tracks. Now let me just talk about this a bit here. Vocally, there's a few different styles. He's got some kind of deep raspy bellows. He's also got these kind of airy sandpapery type black metal shrieks. They're performed very well and very consistent throughout the album. Some of his vocals are very commanding and dominant. There's also kind of like the odd really low cleans here and there, kind of very haunting, very powerful. It's also kind of like the forefront of the mix too, so if you're listening to this on headphones, you're going to be hearing it all over your head. His vocals are just going to be surrounding the entire track. Not too overpowering though. You can hear the other instruments, but like you're not going to miss Invictus's vocals anytime on this album. Some of the vocals kind of have like a Balfagor or Behemoth kind of feel to it as well. As for the guitars, that being Lator Mortis, and some of it is probably done by Invictus. Decent tone, good level in the mix. There's some chuggy kind of riffs. There's plenty of lead, pretty much on every track. There's some like very quick and melodic lead stuff there. Lots of tremolos. There's also some kind of melodic power chords, so you could expect that throughout the album as well. The feel of the guitars, there's probably layers of them for sure going on, so it's going to have a very grandiose and big production, very full feel. Cradle and Demuth fans would definitely enjoy this kind of wall of sound guitars that is going on here. Now for the bass, unfortunately I didn't actually notice like anything of what the bass is doing until I threw on some headphones, so you're definitely gonna need some headphones to notice what the bass is doing. It's very low in the mix, not very stand-out-ish, but there is kind of like an overall added bass tone to the whole album. And there's kind of like a short standout part that I noticed in Nightmare where everything kind of cuts off and fades, and then there's just like a bass part going on, and then it picks back up again, which was really nice. So I kind of like the Nightmare track for that. Now for the drums, they're mid-level in the mix. Very good use of double kicks, very fast blast beats here and there. He also utilizes some mid-level speed drumming patterns and whatnot. It fits the tracks very well. He does what it needs to do. There's some really quick fills here and there too. Like it's like you got to be really good on drums to be able to perform the quickness and accuracy that King does on these drums. There's not a very prominent snare sound though, and by that I mean like the snare isn't like very snappy or crisp or cracky kind of sound. It's more of like a lower tuned, like a medium to low tuned sounding snare. It doesn't pop, so you don't have to strain to hear it or anything, but it's not one of those like really dominant like pat 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 kind of sounds. But the overall dynamics of the drumming in this album is huge, very grandiose, very dynamic. The guy is extraordinarily talented, that's for sure. Some of my favorite tracks on this album, my favorite track for sure, like the standout track on this entire album was Cry of the Nameless. The screams in this are amazing, like the black metal kind of screams in it, fantastic. Some of the guitar riffing in here are really good, really catchy, and I like how this track also has like some slower parts that allows you to breathe, because this album does suffer from the very just intense in your face all the way through kind of uh, full pedal to the metal feel and sound, but I'll get onto that later. My next favorite track is Nightmare, which is available to listen to on their Bandcamp right now. It's kind of like a preview to what's going to happen in this album. The screams, once again, in this track are really, really good. Love the black metal screams in this. That bass part that I was talking about happens about like 60% of the way through the song. Really neat. It actually just finally pops up and goes, "Here I am, I'm the bass," and does its little thing and then fades off again. And the riffing in this is just extraordinarily epic. And then number 4, I really, really like the Ghostlight's Dance. It's has a great, like, a minute and such build up, and then the sick chorus hits you, and then it breaks off again and does like another verse or bridge or whatever, and then it slowly builds back up into the chorus again, and then another verse, and then another bridge or whatever, and then there's kind of like this little, kind of like an outro riff that leads back up into the chorus again, and it's just like full, like, in your face and just really, really grabs you. So yeah, the Ghostlight's Dance, Cry of the Nameless, and Nightmare, definitely 3 tracks to look out for on this album. Now for my overall thoughts, it's like I said, it's very big, very full sounding. It kind of reminds me of the first time I heard Spiritual Black Dimensions by Dimmu Borgir before I really got into black metal, and that just kind of like the sound that came across in my headphones was just, I was blown away. It's like I said, it's very grandiose. This album's dark, it's epic, and it's booming with energy. Highly recommend listening to it on headphones once again, and on a good stereo if you do have one. Don't play it through your fucking phone speaker. Don't play it through these teeny ass little earbuds. Like, make sure you're listening to this on something worthy of music. It's definitely a great production value. They were not skimping on the sound here. It's not raw at all. Once again, for fans of Cradle of Filth and Dimmu Borgir, but with more substance. Like these guys, you can feel a little more like wholesome and still a little, dare I say, cult to listen to, because they're still pretty like ridiculously underground, but they have that like big, like grandiose feel and production value. It's definitely something to write home about. They're also for fans of Belphegor and Behemoth, or maybe even my buddies in Revenge Prevails. Kind of that whole kind of like black and death metal sound. Very has their own like style of it though. You'll definitely be able to notice a Wormlight song as opposed to a Belphegor or Behemoth track. They could definitely stand their ground against any of these bands. These guys aren't just like haphazardly writing songs. They clearly took the time and effort to write masterpieces. I'd give this an 8.5 out of 10. The only improvements or weaknesses I could see are the following: maybe a snappier snare sound, apologies, or a crispier kind of snare sound that kind of like grabs you a bit more. Definitely a more noticeable bass. Higher in the mix slightly. Just, I would like to hear more what he's doing, especially if you actually have a bassist in your band. You want to utilize them and respect them, and let them at least shine a little bit more than what Arctis did. Is that your name, bud? Yeah, Arctis. Let him shine a little bit more on your next release, maybe. Maybe, in my personal opinion, some less death metal growls and more black metal screams, because the stuff you did on Cry of the Nameless and the screams you did on Nightmare, fantastic. I love that stuff. Perhaps add the odd kind of thrashy or doomy riff there, just kind of get like a I don't know, like a different feel, because the whole feel of this album was kind of one feel throughout the entire thing. And some of the songs were kind of samey. Not necessarily like a bad thing, but the album could have definitely benefited from a couple of left or right turns here or there. And like Cry of the Nameless. Cry of the Nameless was a fantastic left turn for this album. Wasn't too derivative or different from like everything else that was going on, but it was definitely the standout track in my opinion. Like a little breather here and there through the songs would be good, just as opposed to full on intense mode all the way through. Because this album was definitely like in your face, like pedal to the metal, all around intensity, wall of sound for the most part. There's a couple of tracks where it did slightly slow down a bit here or there, but most of the time it was just like it kept hitting you over and over again in waves of just epicness. So yeah, needless to say, really, really good album. Definitely give it a shot. Go to their Bandcamp, check out the 2 tracks there, that being Nightmare and the last track, which is Feast of the Mountainkin, which is also a pretty decent track. But yeah, definitely go check out Wormlight, Wrath of the Wilds, pick yourself up a copy, pre-order it, whatever, because you're not going to be disappointed. And Black Lion Records usually delivers the goods, if you know what I'm saying. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10. I'm Jesse Morgan, and I probably would buy this album. Good shit, guys. Cheers. For glory, for the rebellion. Slammerell out.